session, this Facebook Live, is all about astral projection and lucid dreaming. And Tree and I wanted to have quite a casual conversation with you guys, just to touch on some of the foundations, but also give some tips and some tools, maybe share some stories, and then go into your questions. So if you do have any questions and they come up at any time, do drop them in the thread, and then we can have a look at them and start to help you out with some of those. So maybe to begin, should we have a little chat about what actually is astral projection and lucid dreaming? Would you like to explain what lucid dreaming is, Tree? Because Tree is a lucid dreaming author and teacher, so maybe you could tell us a little bit.
Yeah, so maybe just I'll define lucid dreaming, and it's like in layman's terms. I'm sure a lot of people on the thread here probably know, but I'll just go over anyway, just in case anyone tunes in and they think they don't really understand what lucid dreaming is all about. So lucid dreaming is a style of dream where you experience complete consciousness and awareness within the dream itself. In other words, you know 100% that you're dreaming, but it's not like you know you're dreaming and you're just observing like a dream that's like a film. You're actually a co-creator or a director of that film. So you're really engaged with the dream to the extent where you're able to carry on a very heightened sense of awareness and consciousness and start working with the dream. So you can talk to dream characters, ask them what they symbolize. You can create scenes appear in the sky. You can fly. You can do anything that sometimes you can do anything you want. Like it seems like you have a sense of control over it, but sometimes the dream will give you things that you didn't ask for. So I don't really see it as like completely controlling a dream. It's more like working with the dream and sometimes surrendering to the dream, because it can get heavily psychedelic sometimes, and it's there to show you something or teach you something. So lucid dreams can come on all shapes and sizes too, because they're not just entertaining. Some people love just, flying around and being entertained. It's almost like being in a video game. But sometimes these lucid dreams can be quite prolific and profound in a transpersonal way. So you can experience healing or shadow work, dealing with fears or traumas or phobias. And sometimes you just get gifted by the dream. And you might be gifted some sort of insight or some clarity or a new way of thinking, or even like as a creative person, I get gifted music and come back with like a tune playing in my head. So it's an amazing realm of consciousness exploration. And it feels like it is our innate ability as human beings to go there. Yeah, so lucid dreaming, it's a very unique style of dreaming. You will never forget a lucid dream, ever, because you wake up with your mind slightly blown. It makes you question the nature of reality, because often it feels more real than this waking reality. So you never forget it. You never forget a lucid dream, ever.
Tell us one of your stories, Tree. Share something that you've experienced in a lucid dream, either, I don't know, something recently or maybe a funny story, just for those to get an idea that maybe haven't had one, because I know we have got quite a few lucid dreamers here that probably resonate with a lot of what you're saying.
Okay, yeah, I always find this a challenging one. Which one to share?
I know. We were just literally just talking about this. Tree and I was saying we should share loads of stories, and then we was like, well, there's so many. Like, do you share the really epic ones? Do you share like the cool fun ones with the superpowers? Do you share the crazy ones? Do you share the really ones that help you have healing? So yeah, no, it's tricky. I find the same problem with astral projection stuff.
Yeah, so there's so many to share, but I just feel, my intuition feels like I should share this one particular one that I had, I guess it would have been about 4 years ago now. And in the dream, you know, these lucid dreams always start off as a seemingly normal dream. So you're just going about kind of unconscious and the dream's playing out like a film. So in this particular dream, I was walking along a beautiful country road, and it looked like the height of summer. So the fields were, you know, bathed in golden light and beautiful lush green. And there was like a garden wall, stone wall that ran alongside this road. And this road was, it was like a rock dirt road, and it felt like European. It felt like I was in Europe. And as I was walking down the road, I could see that there in the distance was like a stone home, like country home farm style. It was off to the left. And I saw an old man that was leaning against the wall, the garden wall. And as I was walking up towards him, he called me over. And at that point, as I was walking over and I looked at his face, and often this will make me go lucid in dreams, is when I look at a person in the face and I see their eyes. And for some reason, looking into people's eyes make me go lucid, particularly if the eyes are holding this almost etheric, like ethereal quality where they look bigger or bluer, or there's something about the eyes that piques me into lucidity because they're so distinct and crisp, like so super clear. So I was looking at this snowy haired, white haired old man, and his eyes just really drew me in. And it was at that point that I went lucid. And all of a sudden I was fully lucid. I was like, okay, what's going on? And who's this old guy? And he said, I want to show you something. And he held out his hands, and I looked at his hands, and in his hands, I just started to see that energy was forming, and it was swirling around and forming like orbs in his hands. And it was like an iridescent, like luminous blue, much like the blue neon just behind me. So it was really, you know, phosphorus. It really stood out and was very clear. And he started forming this energy in his hands. And then he said to me, now you do it. And so I just held out my hands and I started to just will energy to just, okay, there's energy there, come out. And it started to form. And then he showed me how to shoot it out of my hands as well. And it was coming out like electricity, like lightning bolts, like little mini lightning bolts. And I was like, whoa, and I was making it go out, and I was looking at him. And then at that point, it just dawned on me, and it hit me that this is Tesla. This was Nikola Tesla in my lucid dream. And he was showing me how to shoot energy, how to work with like energy that's within us, you know? And I woke up really elated and just like amazed that it was this cool little lesson of energy by Nikola Tesla in a lucid dream. So I thought that was pretty cool. And it made me wake up feeling like, yeah, we're made of energy, and we could probably work with this energy and direct this energy, and it's tangible. So that really shifted my thinking in many ways, because I started doing meditations that really centered into my own energy. And that's what I do now in sessions as well, or any workshops. When I do any type of meditation, the first thing we do is we do a centering technique, which I feel like I learned from Nikola Tesla in a lucid dream, where we feel into our own energy and we can tangibly feel it. And this reminds us that we're pure beings of infinite energy, and we're source energy. And often when I guide people through this, it's a very simple meditation, just observing the energy between the open palms. And afterwards, I always have so many people like messaging me or talking to me saying, that blew my mind. I could feel stuff. I could feel the tingling. I could feel the energy. And it just shifted their thinking, feeling like, I am alive, you know, I have energy, and I can move that energy and work with it. So, I mean, those are the foundations of any magic practice, really, in the esoteric arts. But knowing that that's what you're made of, and that you can move that and shift it around you, and or even just know that that's your source, that's who you are, can be really centering for people. So I feel like I learned that in a lucid dream from Nikola Tesla.
I can't believe you got like a direct teaching from Nikola Tesla, you know, whether it's, you know, really him or your projection of him, and you've tapped into his knowledge, or from the collective consciousness, or whatever it might be. It's fucking crazy. It reminds me of, you know, Jung's active imagination, where you visualize yourself at a table, and you call in numerous teachers you'd like to learn from, so say Albert Einstein, and then you imagine that they're there, and you imagine that they're giving you advice. Except this isn't imagining. This is like the Nikola Tesla 3D reality in your lucid dream, giving you teachings, which is crazy. But this is one of the things I don't touch on enough, so thank you for reminding of it. The fact that you can go in and potentially meet projections of, or maybe the real historical figure, and then get information from them. So that's really cool one. Thank you for sharing that, Tree. I think,
Yay! It's funny, isn't it? Because I'm not a fangirl at all either. So when I dream of of people of notable positions, I'm always a bit intrigued, because I'm not, certainly not like, do you know what I'm saying? I'm not like 100%, you know, some kind of groupie or some shit like that. It's just, to me, it's like randoms, you know?
But that's what's cool, you see. So for me, I'm really fascinated by, if it doesn't sit within our belief system, or we don't expect it to happen, or we don't predict it, which is how we perceive reality normally, it all comes down to our belief system, expectation, and prediction. So if he's some person that isn't a strong sense of who you have a connection to, why did he particularly show up in that dream at that time, giving you that specific advice? So I think these things are really these peculiar moments that are maybe somewhat abnormal to our everyday sense of who we are and how we go about the world, is makes me think that it could be tapping into definitely something more than our own mind.
Yeah, it's really intriguing. It is cool. I get strange characters that come through. Like I had Jimi Hendrix come through once in a lucid dream, gave me a profound teaching about sound and music. Like I just got chills just now thinking about it. It was, oh God, I'm really getting chills, but it was so profound, unbelievably profound, this teaching. And I'm like, again, I'm not like some kind of groupie or fangirl. Like, of course, everyone enjoys Jimi Hendrix's music, of course, but I have no way, like, you know what I mean? Like, and so when he came through in a lucid dream, showing me the power of music, and just in experiencing it as well, it just completely blew my mind. Interestingly enough, a year later, no joke, I met Jimi Hendrix's cousin, who's now in my life because my brother is like producing his music on the West Coast. Crazy synchronicities. Like, you can't even make this shit up. And when I met Henry Brown, who's like Jimi Hendrix's cousin, and I went into his studio and listened to his music, and Jimmy's like gold albums are in the studio, like Jimmy everything. Henry was even wearing a Jimmy t-shirt. And I was just like, I can't believe my life right now. Like, I had Jimi Hendrix in a dream, lucid dream, showing me the power of music and love and like vibrations and the universe. And then here I am a year later, like sitting in his like Bloodlines studio. So, and talking to him about it too, telling his cousin about it. Your cousin showed up in a lucid dream. He's like, oh, Jimmy wrote about dreams all the time. All his lyrics are about dreams he had. And I'm getting chills again. It's like, he is like, you know, a dream guide. Like, he's a dream dude. He's probably floating around in the universe, just jumping into people's lucid dreams. Anyway, like, I got too many stories like that. Maybe I should write a book about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you should do a book of all these crazy stories. And it's interesting you talk about synchronicities, because there's something I think I put on the Instagram post where I said, basically, come join us. Let's chat about our inner and outer cosmos. And then I put, spoiler alert, there is no inner and outer. obviously that can be interpreted in various ways, but I think your story is a good example of how there's this connection between our inner or dream life, let's say, assuming that dream life is inner, and then the outer world as well. So I think there's a lot of definite weird synchronicities for sure between our dreams and then what we see in reality.
Absolutely. And even in astral projection, so in the out of body states too, there's loads of synchronicities with that. So Jade, by definition, what is astral projection, out of body states? Please do define it.
So, yes, so astral projection, out of body experience. So how we define it depends on what psychological lens we are looking through. So if I'm looking through the Western psychology lens, an out of body experience would be the experience of self-awareness seeming to shift out of the physical body and being in a separate space. Now, when I say out, we might like to think of it expanding beyond, rather than a separate entity of ourselves, like a soul or a spirit, leaving the physical body and leaving an empty vessel. Now, in some traditions, that's what they believe. It's the soul or the spirit kind of leaving and then coming back to the body. But I kind of align with the idea of it's more of an expanded state of consciousness. And one tradition that says something very similar is the Mexican Toltec tradition, and also the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, because they say if your soul was leaving the body, we would be dead, much like in a near-death experience when that process begins to happen. So I just wanted to say that just to alleviate any fears if anyone did think that they were never going to come back to their body, or some of these fears we have. So if I were to have one right now, there would be a few things that would happen. The first is we might pass through what's called the vibrational state. And this is a series of sensations in the body that we might feel on a very visceral sense. It could feel like energy flowing through, vibrations. It's been described as being in a jet plane engine, but it could also be very subtle, like a buzz or a hum, but a feeling of a transitory state which happens just before we seem to have an out-of-body experience. And then the second part would be I would find myself in usually the room where my physical body is. Not always, because it depends on the environment we project into, but most of the time it will be the same room as our physical body. And then my awareness, so my self-perception, will now be in the room at the same time as my physical body. And then I'd be able to go travel to different places and see different people and have certain experiences and adventures. So someone has just said that I froze. If I do froze or the sound goes, do let us know. Do put that in, because that's really helpful. Thank you, Samantha, for saying that. So an out-of-body experience is also known as a self-initiated astral projection or self-initiated out-of-body experience. They usually happen on the cusp of sleep, so what we call the hypnagogic or the hypnopompic state. So if you've ever had any weird experiences as you've been falling asleep, or when you've been waking up in the morning, where you may have found yourself floating or feeling like you're floating or hovering above yourself, or you may have experienced some of these crazy sounds and feelings and sensations, it could be the onset to having an out-of-body experience. Could also be just you're about to drop into a dream, or it could be hypnagogic imagery. But I think one thing, I'll share a little story that might help able to kind of get a sense of the feeling of what it might be like. And it's a very visceral feeling. You know, the most commonly reported words that people say are, it felt realer than real. So cut a long story short. So lying in bed, I'd nipped to the loo, got back, fell straight into the vibrational state and thought, shall I do an exit technique? Yes. Okay. I'm going to do the rollout technique, which is where we roll out of our physical body by intending to actually roll without moving our physical body. So a strong sense of I'm really going to roll, but then I don't actually roll my physical body. rolled out of my physical body, and I thought to stand up, but as soon as I thought to stand up, I was standing. So it was a thought responsive environment. Then I thought, okay, what should I do now? Okay, I'll go out the window. So I went out the window and dropped into the street. And I was able to have this flying sensation and floating sensation that felt physically real. And as I drop into the street, I noticed the sunbeams coming down from the left-hand side. I can sense the dew on the grass several meters away in the distance. I have this hyper sensory awareness, like I'm tuned in, interconnected, as well as being seemingly separate from everything at the same time. And I do remember thinking, oh my God, this is so cool. And then I looked down at myself and I had this energy body. So I had this feeling, I had this, I looked like the Invisible Woman. I looked like a mirage, or kind of like a ghost-like figure. Although I don't like using the word ghost, because sometimes it might scare a few people. But I had this energy sense, this light body or a second body. It's also known as a subtle body. And when I moved my arms, it was like when light leaves a trail behind. Yeah, so very, very distinctive and very real. In that, I've told this story a few times. So for those that have heard it before, I'm just going to skip straight to the end. In that experience, I was able to get a door number of a street that I hadn't been down before. And when I came back from the experience, I then went to that same house to see if it was the same one that I had in my experience. And it was the same number, which was number 18. And that is one of the key moments of my early out-of-body experiences that blew my mind and made me leave a 12-year career in the arts and start my degree in master's transpersonal psychology. Pretty crazy. And I think that's one of there's a few differences between lucid dreaming and out-of-body experience, and I don't want to take up loads of time talking about them all, because this is also something we're going to have a whole class on in the liminal sensorium, how to transform your lucid dream into astral projection. So shifting beyond our own individual mind stream, the dream state, our own computer, into the wider collective consciousness, wider realities, shifting from our computer of our own mind into the internet. So I won't go too much more into that. And obviously that is debatable as well, which we will be talking about some theories of what might be going on there. But I do want to share a story of the Tibetan Buddhist sleeping master. So Mindraling Rinpoche is a great master, and he sensed that he was going to die. And in Tibetan Buddhism, out-of-body experience practice is practiced in order for conscious dying. So they want to be able to meet death with no regrets, with joy, with acceptance. But they also want to be able to die consciously, to be able to ride into the death state with conscious awareness. And this is because they believe at the point of death, we just black out. A bit like we fall asleep, we just black out. So within this tradition, Tibetan Buddhism, they say they want to maintain awareness. And for monks and nuns and serious practitioners, this is the last chance for enlightenment. They say the point of death, to realize the nature of reality. So Mindraling Rinpoche realizes he's going to die because he recognizes the dissolution of the elements from the body, which is what they say start to dissolve just before you're going to pass away. And this could be moments, weeks, months, or years. So he decides, what's the best thing to do for this? Dream yoga. I'm going to practice my lucid dreaming, because lucid dreaming is also one of the things used for conscious dying, and my out-of-body experience practice. So he starts being asleep, and he's just consistently asleep all the time. So his students would come up, and his wife would give him a prod, and he would whack the students, wake up for a moment, whack them, and then go back to sleep. So he wouldn't really wake up. He was always in the hypnopompic or asleep. And one day, very rare occasion, he woke up and he said to his wife, go put the kettle on. 5 people are coming, make some tea. And then he fell back to sleep. She thought, oh, that's very unusual. And then half an hour later, 5 people turned up, and she'd got tea ready for them. And so what had happened is he'd had an out-of-body experience, gone down to the valley, seen that a car, I think, or a van had broken down, and there were people traveling up the hill for help. And he knew that it was roughly about half an hour. So he knew that they were going to be coming to the house for help, and was able to tell his wife that they were coming. So I think this is kind of one of the benefits of astral travel, is that you're able to get information at a distance and bring that back. But also, again, the idea of tapping into wider realities through using out-of-body experiences. And within Tibetan Buddhism, they say you project a conscious energy body, which our conscious awareness then goes into. Even the Dalai Lama says you can train your consciousness to leave your physical body. I'm going to hold that there because I can talk about this for days. And I think maybe, should we go into some questions, or do you want to offer some tips, Tree? What do you reckon we should do? Or does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, are people saying stuff? Let's have a look.
So we're going to see if you guys have got any questions. Otherwise, we'll share some tips, but we'll share some tips afterwards anyway.
So we do have some questions here. For out-of-body experiences, Jade, Sandesh Shetty, how could you feel all the sensations and perception when you left your body back?
Oh, could you say that one more time? How can you?
He says, how could you feel all the sensations and perception when you left your body back? Please explain.
That's a really, really good question. I'll tell you why, which it might be obvious, is that if our conscious awareness can expand beyond or leave our physical body, how do we then experience things without the five senses? Touch, taste, hearing, smell. How do we get such a visceral, more realer than real experience if there's nothing for that experience to come through, to transpire through? Now, I don't know the answer to this, and I think this is something that's always going to be debated. But I can point out a couple of things. So the first is, from psychology, they would say that we are drawing on memory and imagination to recreate a reality based on what we predict it to be, or what we think should be there. So if we see something with our mind's eye or our consciousness, we see a tree. Because we have memory and imagination still within our individual consciousness, we would then experience a tree as we assume a tree to be experienced, like the smell of a tree, or the sight of a tree. It's the same as in a dream, right? So if you have a lucid dream, you can see a tree, but because you know it's a dream, you could make it something completely different. So you could be, tree turn into a spaceship now, and then it could turn into a spaceship. You can't do that in an out-of-body experience. So just to go back, you cannot do that in an out-of-body experience. But the reason why I wanted to draw on the dream was because I wanted to just point out the expectation of what we see. So why does a tree appear as a tree in a dream? Why doesn't it appear as something obscure or more different? In an out-of-body experience, we are maybe drawing on that same memory and same imagination. Now, what's tricky is that we can retrieve veridical information of that object or that house or that person when we come back. So if we are not perceiving those things through the physical body and the five senses, what are we perceiving it through? My background and my education would tell me we are perceiving it through consciousness, or what Kenneth Ring termed mind sight. So he said the way in which we see with our mind in these extraordinary, non-ordinary states of consciousness is through our mind sight. So there's a little bit into that question. I don't want to go on too much with that. Do you have anything to add, Tree, maybe from your experience?
I think I sort of approach things as an explorer of sorts, and even though, you know, certain constructs of science wouldn't back up the out-of-body experience, you know, the current construct of science says no, it's impossible. I see myself as an explorer, so I will push beyond even what science says and try it out for myself. So my experiences with the senses beyond the body has made me wonder for myself. I have a little hypothesis, is that perhaps there is some kind of astral body or etheric body, energy body, that we can engage with. The only reason why I have this hypothesis is just through a few things that I've experienced when I've had out-of-body experiences. And that is looking at my astral body and it being, made of light, and it seemed to have energy trails like you were describing, Jade, with your experience that one time, and seeing energy trails. So I've experienced that. Also, the experience of passing through walls and passing through glass, being able to do that. Obviously, you wouldn't be able to do that with a physical body, but feeling it, being able to feel the sensation of going through the wall and the glass, like the thickness and the sensation and the change and the shift of air on the other side of said wall or window or glass. Also, I've experienced things in the astral where I've been able to work with the energy of my etheric body as well. I did in one astral experience, I wanted to go visit a friend and in Chicago. And so I have fun in the astral plane where I try to travel through portals and build portals in my experience. And so I decided to go to Chicago. And as I made that intention, I want to go to Chicago, and I was looking at my hands, all of a sudden, like a 3D map formed on the palm of my hand. And it was like that iridescent blue color I was describing from the Tesla story. It was like a 3D map of the downtown of Chicago in my hand. And it was all like, tall buildings, and it looked really enchanted and really cool, something you'd see maybe in a Harry Potter film or something. And all of a sudden I saw like a red dot that was pointing towards a specific building, like a house with a very specific turret, like a column and a turret on the top. And I was like, right, that's where I need to go. So the place with the turret. And as the map dissolved in my hand, I was able to start concentrating and start making a portal on the wall in front of me. But I was really engaged with my astral body. And I was really, it was so tangible. I could see it, and it didn't look like, skin. It was made of light, and I could manipulate energy with it and do things with it. So it makes me kind of wonder if my little hypothesis is perhaps there is some kind of it's like almost like getting into a wetsuit, before diving into the ocean. Perhaps there's some sort of astral suit that we can work with, perhaps. I don't know. I always try to entertain big ideas and theories, but that's why I keep exploring and try to do experiments while I'm in the astral. But I guess that's my thoughts. But obviously, the memories that we have of our waking reality and of sight, smell, sound, and touch, and all of the visceral senses, certainly, it's part of our consciousness, could be pulled in as well. But I do like to play around with that hypothesis.
I think that's a really good point as well, Chi, to make, is that because a few people are saying, is it just a state of mind? How do we know the difference? And I think until you've had quite a few experiences of one or the other, it can be difficult to tell. So one of the reasons why, so I had over 200 lucid dreams before I had my big out of body experience. So it was a very visceral difference for me. And I exited I wasn't asleep. So that's a big thing to point out. You can have an out of body experience when you're completely wide awake. Still in an altered state. So we're usually in an altered state, but we can be asleep. So, but lucid dreaming only happens when we're asleep, within a dream, within the REM period. So I think that's something interesting. But I've trailed off a little bit. What I wanted to point out was when you were talking about direct experience, So I think for those people, is to practice and to train and to have as many experiences as possible, because every experience that we have, you learn something more and you learn something new. For example, somebody had wrote here, I read, they said that they came out of their body and they looked at their hands and they realized it wasn't their hands, so they thought they were lucid dreaming. And they were confused about the difference. But that's a perfect example of practice. So then if you have more out-of-body experiences, you'll know that sometimes you have an astral body or a light body, subtle body, or an energy body. Sometimes you're just a floating point of perception. You don't have any body at all. You can be just a floating point of awareness. And other times you can look down at your body and you can see almost a hallucination of your body based on what you think you should look like. So you don't always have a light body in a very certain way. It can be very different. For example, another one of the out-of-body experiences I've had when I've been very stressed is my energy body has been quite dense and quite heavy, almost not black as in the color, but black as in the weight. And I've tried to move my body and it's like I'm going through mud or sludge and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. But other time, I've been very light and floaty. So this just comes with practice and having quite a few experiences to get to kind of know the different ones. I was going to go into something very big and philosophical then, but we'll end up down the rabbit hole if I do that. So I'm going to hold it there because I think it'd be good to maybe answer a couple more questions.
Yeah. Okay, let's see.
Okay.
What's the difference between lucid dreams and out-of-body experiences?
We're going to pack that one. And we're going to take it and I'm going to park it. The in-depth explanation, because we've got a whole class on it, and the answer to that will take up quite a lot of time, and I want to make sure that we get through other people's questions, and also because I touched on it earlier a little bit. But I will say one thing, and obviously this is my current experience, and I'm still learning myself. So a lucid dream would be like we are in the computer of our own mind. We have access to the files, the hard drive, and the pictures. So we are sat within our own individual consciousness. And our body experience is like we go into the internet, the collective consciousness. We have access to different sites, to different people, to different places, potentially beyond the boundaries of our own individual consciousness. However, there is a cable that attaches the computer to the internet. So the boundary between a lucid dream and an out-of-body experience is very malleable and isn't as rigid as what I'm making out, but I'm just using that metaphor to help kind of simplify. So it seems like we can shift between states, or Tom Campbell would say, change data streams. So tune into different frequencies of consciousness, some more expansive into wider realities, and some more contained and limited to our own personal experience. That's kind of the short answer. There are other things like we experience the body differently, the environments can be different, but we'll go into more detail about that. I'll tell you what I'll do. I can send you, if you would like to know more about that, I can send you a sheet with lots of different differences and similarities between the two.
Yes.
If that's okay.
Or right. You can join our Liminal Sensorium on October 31st. And it's an online retreat. We all sleep over together, but of course, from the comfort of our own homes. And we're going to be, 14 hours? We're going to do 14 hours of a journey, a group journey online. And we'll be covering all of these questions and all these topics as well, really defining the difference between lucid dreaming and astral projection, and also using lucid dreaming as a springboard into the out-of-body states too. So lots of different maneuvering that we'll guide you through, so you can like become a superhero of the lucid dream and astral states.
And something that's really useful to know is that we're going to be using plants. I'm super excited about this because it's not my background. I have very little experience with plants that help lucid dreaming and astral projection. It's something I want to experience for myself. Maybe you do too. And Tree is an expert in herbs and plants for lucid dreaming and astral travel. So we're going to be doing special tea ceremony as a group before we go into the sleep states. And then we're also going to do one in the morning to help integrate and embody and ground our experiences. So that's one of the biggest things I'm excited about.
Woohoo! Yeah, I know. I love the herbs and the plants. They're great little guides, and they're amazing for expanding our consciousness, and they help a lot, especially too if you're feeling quite like blocked, or you're even not even remembering just a normal dream from your nightly sleep. Certain herbs can like activate that and really get you going.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point to make, because obviously there's a few people here that are lucid dreamers and astral projectors. But if you're the kind of person who you're listening to all of this and you're thinking, oh my God, I can't even remember a dream. I just black out and I wake up in the morning and can't remember a thing. We will be looking at some of the basics, and we will be looking at how to have better sleep hygiene so we can remember our dreams, and also different ways in which we can make that happen. So one of the tips is a dream diary. If you haven't already started one, if you begin to do a dream, I call it a dream and projection diary, then that will really help with your dream recall. Even if you wake up in the morning and all you write down is, I had a dream, there was a pub and my friend was there, and that's all you remember. If you keep doing that, you will get better recall. So dream diary is really key as a beginning point. If you start that now, by the time we come to do the liminal sensorium, you might be able to share some of your experiences, because as part of that, we have breakout rooms where we share where we're currently at with other like-minded people as well. Did you have a tip that could help with that along with the dream diary?
Yeah, so the dream diary is great because, like you said, it improves your dream memory recall, and it also helps trigger more dreams. So it seems as though it just gets you in the zone and activates it, and you end up remembering like 4 or 5 dreams from the night before rather than just like one. But also, it's really important to map out your dreams and write them down, because this is the blueprint of your subconscious realms too. So when you start really getting into a conscious dreaming practice or an astral projection practice, you'll need that map in order to do your dream work, to do your consciousness work, because a lot of it gets played out in the dream state. So if you're working through trauma or working through distress in your life, or perhaps you're just going through a really stagnant period in life and you want some inspiration, or you want to like just activate something or connect to something deeper within yourself or the universe, mapping out your dreams is important. You'll be able to have a little good, like a blueprint for you to start navigating. Also really important too, because some of us are prone to precognition. And if you are writing and recording your dreams down, then you'll start being able to see when you've had a precognitive hit through a dream. And then said event does happen in reality, might happen a year later or a week later. But this helps a lot because it shows proof of your precognition, but also it encourages you to grow in your precognition. And also it's there to join the dots. And that's something that can really develop and deepen. And that's a whole other topic, precognitive lucid dreams. And certainly I shared one on the Lucid Dreaming Summit about Charlie. And that was like pretty amazing when we did that. If you want to see that, go to Wake Academy and check out Charlie's interviews there, because I talk all about it on that. But yeah, so dream recording is good. It's a good practice, and it's kind of like a foundation too.
So that was Awake Academy and the Lucid Dreaming Summit for those that would like to hear about Tree's precognitive dream with Charlie Morley at Lucid Dreaming Teacher. I just wanted to touch on something you said about the dream diary being important for kind of knowing our own internal realm. Because when we have out-of-body experiences, sometimes the environments we can go into, these non-physical realities, Some of them are subjective realms of our own minds, which we can go into, and others are more expanded states, such as other realms or dimensions that you can enter with other beings or people. To know the difference and also tune into where it's truly coming from, you really have to know yourself as best we can. For example, you might have an experience where you meet a part of your shadow in an out of body experience, shadow being something we've suppressed, denied, or disowned about ourselves, and you might come into contact with it as a way for it to speak to you, to integrate itself. I'm not going to go too much in depth because this is a whole big topic, but it's important because if you know yourself really well, your patterns, your beliefs, your neurosis, the trauma that you have to, or maybe you deal with on a day-to-day basis, when you meet that in an expanded state of consciousness, you can recognize what that is instead of reacting from a place of fear and panic, and then missing that opportunity to really heal whatever that is. And this goes for lucid dreaming as well, because you can do shadow work without body experiences, and you can do shadow work in lucid dreaming. So I just wanted to kind of add on to what Tree said there. This is why the dream diary is so important. I want to say one last thing about our intention as a tip and our motivation. So whether we want to start lucid dreaming or out of body experiences, we need an intention. What do we want to do if we have one? Because, oh my God, the amount of people that email me and go, oh my God, I just had an out of body experience. I came out and I was in my room and then I walked around my house. And that was it, because there was no intention of where to go or what to do. And sometimes that's fantastic enough. You've had an OB and you've come out and you're like, oh my God, it's real. So I have those emails, but it's good to have an intention. So if you do spontaneously have one, you're able to then do whatever it is you intend, whether that's go visit somebody in another place or whether that's work with an element of our own trauma. So what are we going to do? That's the intention. Now, this is the key to success: motivation. Why do we want to do that intention? If you have a meaningful motivation, a meaningful reason why do I want to do this? How can this most benefit me in my life? And change things, perhaps, if you'd like to create change, then your meaning is most important. Because if you decide to have an out-of-body experience to go visit an ex-boyfriend or an ex-girlfriend and see what they've got up to, I don't think your unconscious mind is probably going to get on board, or a wider power will probably approve of that. Whereas if you want to have an out-of-body experience or a lucid dream to heal your depression or find out some guidance on what your next steps in your life is, then your unconscious mind and potentially a greater power or your ancestors or your spirit guides are more likely to get on board and go, yes, that's wicked, I'm going to help you have one. So motivation is the key to success. Why do we want to do it? Then intention, what are we going to do?
I love that. Yeah, don't be an astral stalker. Use these tools to help yourself. Don't stalk your ex.
Yes, there are ethics to lucid dreaming and ethics to out-of-body experiences.
Yeah. Well. It's good to get permission from people.
Consent.
Consensual,
okay.
Yeah.
On that note, if you are interested in out-of-body experiences and lucid dreaming, and you would like to spend your Halloween, your Samhain, in a very different way, you can join me and Tree. We are going to be doing guided practices in several sessions. So this is how it's going to work. We all meet up online, so it's an online immersive retreat at midday on the Saturday. Then we have several sessions throughout the day, which are going to be lucid dreaming focused, astral projection focused, then a special session on how to springboard from the lucid dream into astral projection. And then we'll have a session in the evening where we will guide you into sleep, or we'll do wake back to bed. Now, this is tricky because it depends on whether you live in the US on the East Coast or whether you're coming from the UK. So your time zones will be different. But what you need to know is that we'll be doing a guided session into sleep. whether for you that is when we go to bed, or whether for you that is when we do a wake up in the morning, will be slightly different. If that's confusing, ask us more questions about that and we can go into it. In the morning, we then do a wake up session. I'll do a stretch with you. For those that know, I used to be a dancer and teach dance for 15 years. So we're not going to dance first thing in the morning.
Oh, let's
That might be a
dance.
bit much. Well, we could. But I think we'll just start with a gentle, easy stretch. And then Tree is going to guide us through a tea ceremony, and we're going to share some of our experiences and go over what we've done, and there'll be space for questions as well.
You know what's really cool too about Halloween and Samhain? This is a really liminal time of the year. Like in a lot of traditions all around the world hold space between the 31st or to the 2nd of November to connect with ancestors, connect with the dead. And there's something really special about this time of year. So in esoteric terms, it's considered to have a thinner veil at that time, and that access to the liminal realms is easier. So that's why it feels really exciting to do a group journey during this very liminal threshold time, especially on those dates, on the 31st and over to the 1st. It'll be really interesting to see what happens as a group with these intentions, and I'm really excited about the experiences that we'll all have. Really excited.
Can I say 2 things there, because I've just got very excited? So so one thing is, one of the reasons why people often practice out-of-body experiences is to connect with people who may have passed away, and their loved ones and their family. So at this time of year, this is probably the best time to do that. Now, whether you believe it's just a projection of your own mind or you're actually meeting them is probably irrelevant, because the healing we can get in terms of closure and grief upon meeting a 3D hyper-realistic connection with someone who's passed over is very powerful. And in fact, most people say it was really them, that it wasn't a projection of their own mind, and they got that verified through information or a feeling or an inner gnosis. So it's a very potent time for connecting to those that have passed over. And what was the second thing I was going to say? It's gone. My self-sabotage came in and sabotaged it. See, knowing yourself, see what I was talking about? If you know yourself really well, you can recognize when things come forward from your unconscious. And I was saying this earlier, if you've just joined, that happens in an OBE. So I know that I have self-sabotage, and I know that it comes in at times when I do talks, and it makes me forget things. And so as it arose then, I knew that was where it came from. I just wanted to point that out as a result. Knowing yourself.
But I love this though, what you say, Jay, because a lot of people do really find that connections to loved ones in dreams, lucid dreams, or out-of-body states is really healing process, is a part of bereavement and closure. And we can certainly cover that within the liminal sensorium. I'm a death doula, a death midwife, so I'm very comfortable in the realms of talking about death and the deceased and mediumship and anything to do with loss. And that's something that would be really lovely to honor and hold space for that, especially if that's part of people's intentions during that time.
Yeah, Tree's day job is guiding people through death state as her day job. So you've also got, somebody you can ask about those sorts of related topics on the retreat as well. So it's really going to be something quite special. And I remembered what it was. So my higher self brought it back to me, the thing that I forgot earlier. So I'm interested in many traditions all over the world at this time of year, all saying that it's a potent time because the veil is thinner, we can have more connection to these extra dimensions, because it's perennial. They all say more or less the same thing in different ways, but they don't know each other. They're completely different cultures. So it's interesting that all around the world, many of them are saying the same thing about that time of year. That's what it was. That I wanted to say that I think is important.
Yes, and these cultures and traditions are everywhere, from the Day of the Dead in Mexico, you know, to Samhain, to, you know, in India, there's celebrations there around this time of year, that time of year as well. So very good stuff.
Cool. So with that, I hope that this sparks a little bit of your own practice back again. Some people have lucid dream after watching or reading and immersing themselves in it. So hopefully just watching this Facebook Live means you will have a lucid dream. You will have a lucid dream.
Activations.
Activation. Energy. Manifesting.
Ow.
It's going to happen.
Tesla energy coming out of the hands.
If you are interested in the liminal sensorium event that we've spoke about, we are going to put all the information in this thread. We'll do some links, and then all the information is going to be there. You can have a look and see if it's for you. If not, no worries. Drop us an email and I can send you some of those tips that we spoke about. I can just outline them very briefly so you don't have to remember, but only if you email me. I can't, you know, so do make sure you do that. info@jadeshaw.com.
Fantastic. Cool.
So after our very late start due to technical issues, a glitch in the matrix, perhaps.
No, a glitch in my granny brain, basically, because I couldn't join.
Oh, I think it was mine as well. I think it was mine as well. First time doing co-hosted Facebook Live. I'm telling you, people, if you have your own job, your own business, you're an entrepreneur, or this is something to look into beforehand quite extensively so you don't have these problems. But thank you for being patient. Those of you that have stayed all the way through.
It was wonderful.
Thank you, and hopefully we will see you soon. If not, stay in touch, stay connected. Me and Tree reply quite a lot on social media, particularly Instagram, so you can always drop us a question or a line.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Goodbye. Hopefully I can figure how to turn this off now. Let's see.
Happy lucid dreams and astral projections.